Today we're meeting one of my heroes and unquestionably one of the most special cars ever to be offered on Cars and Bids. Its name conjures up images of speed, beauty, and mid-century elegance. Here it is, the Ferrari 365 GTB4, better known as the Daytona. This particular car is something very special. It went through an exterior restoration and it looks truly magnificent, but under the hood lies a very special version of this V12, uprated to over 400 horsepower. It comes on a set of Barani wheels and it is truly bellissimo. And you can buy this one exclusively on Cars and Bids. Introduced in 1968, the Daytona was a response to a threat, the Lamborghini Miura. Initially, Lamborghini was a thorn in Ferrari's side, a spite company that introduced the 350 GT. But with the success of that car, Lamborghini would go on to develop the Miura, a mid-engine car, a new cutting-edge design. And Ferrari had to respond, and they did so with the Daytona. Unlike Lamborghini though, Ferrari didn't throw out the rule book with their new car. They stuck to what they had learned with previous models, and the recipe was the same. V12 engine at the front, torque tube in the middle, transaxle at the rear. Coupled with a 1-2-3 victory at Daytona in 1967, it would give this car its name and would give birth to a legend, the Daytona. The Colombo V12. In this particular case, the Tipo 251. 4.4 liters, 4 camshafts, 6 double barrel Weber carburetors, 2 very orange ram oil filters, and dry sump lubrication. This is the engine that Ferrari would choose to make this car something really special. And they would make it the fastest car in the world. Producing about 350 horsepower in European trim, this engine would propel the Daytona to 174 miles an hour, making it the fastest car in the world. The Lamborghini Miura had a claimed top speed of 186, but no Miura would ever reach that speed. In testing, most cars wouldn't get above 170 miles an hour. Later versions would go slightly faster, but the Daytona always got to its top speed, and that was largely down to 2 reasons: design and layout. The Miura's main issue was that at speed, the front end created aerodynamic lift, meaning that the front wheels would literally come off the ground, making it really unstable. The Daytona, however, wasn't like that. Its design was very aerodynamically clean, meaning that it would punch through the air and it would stay on the ground. In addition to that, having a big, great V12 engine up front helped with traction, keeping those front wheels on the ground, meaning this car could easily get to its top speed. In addition to its aerodynamic design, the transaxle layout of this car really benefited the Daytona. Mounting the gearbox at the back gave extra pressure on the rear wheels, meaning that as inertia would increase when you'd accelerate, there'd be even more pressure on the rear wheels, digging them into the ground, allowing you to accelerate faster. And this car certainly was fast, 0 to 60 in just 5.4 seconds in 1968. Ferrari also would implement their torque tube design, which was originally pioneered on the 275. This torque tube joined the engine at the front to the gearbox at the back, and it offered a lot of rigidity in the driveline of this car. There are 2 mounting points at the front and 2 at the back, which meant that the driveline couldn't twist and the differential couldn't dive. The result is that the power was directly translated to the rear wheels, meaning that this car's driveline was incredibly taut and very effective. This design was so good that almost 30 years later, Ferrari would use it in this car's spiritual successor, the 550 Maranello. V12 engine at the front, torque tube in the middle, transaxle at the rear. And this particular car has a tie to the 550. It was used in Car and Driver's issue when the 550 was introduced as the direct comparison point as driven by Brock Yates. This car then has a lot going for it. A beautiful design that was really important when it came out, and it's still desirable and important today. But values of Daytonas remain relatively low compared to other vintage Ferraris. Some say that's because the controls are very heavy. Others say that's because they built a lot of these cars. But ultimately, there are Ferraris that they produced similar numbers of that are worth a lot more. I'm looking at you, F40. So, are the foibles around this car and the feelings around it justified? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's take this thing for a drive. We're driving a Ferrari Daytona. I've been dreaming of this moment. I can't even tell you how long. I have loved these cars for many, many years. I just think they're the most beautiful, elegant, just wonderful cars. And to get to experience one for the very first time is so special. Listen to the mechanical noise this car makes. Even at low speed, just ticking along, there's so much going on up there. It just instantly involves you in the experience. This car is alive, and there is no mistaking that you are in something very, very special. And I just am grinning ear to ear. This is the coolest thing. My initial impressions about the controls is like, yeah, everything is really heavy. You know, the clutch is pretty heavy. The steering basically does not rotate the car at all when you're not moving. You have to be moving a little bit in order for it to move, but once you are, it's, you know, I don't find it to be that bad at all. It just needs to wake up a little bit. You know, that's just kind of the nature of not having power steering. Granted, cars of its time, even others that didn't have power steering, were easier to drive, but so far, you know, those things are true, but they don't put me off the experience of the car, not even remotely. Oh, and the throttle precision, even at low speed, because you have a mechanical linkage to carburetors, it's just every millimeter you move your toe, it does something. There's an instantaneous response. And that is just fantastic. We have to take our time warming this car up because it has so much oil inside of the engine. Being a dry-sump car, it just has a ton of oil you have to warm up. And then, because the transmission isn't anywhere near the engine, it takes time to build heat in it before the gearbox is fully warmed up and will shift more smoothly. So you take your time with the Daytona. That's what I've been told by everybody I've talked to who loves these cars. You just take your time, let it slowly tick over. The oil temperature hasn't even gotten to 60 degrees yet. We're not even warming up, but even so, just taking it easy, it's so special. Let's go down a gear again. Majesty. That's how I would describe this car. It is majestic and so stable. That's the thing I think that blows me away already, is like the stiffness of the drivetrain. I touch the throttle and it does, you can see the whole car is so tightly put together. It just gives a little rock and off it goes. You can tell it wants to go. I can't wait to open the taps on this thing more because I can feel all of the incredible performance that lives up there. And even in a car as old as this one is, you can just tell it's still really impressive. This is my kind of car. Big, thumping, brutish V12, achingly pretty styling. The Ferrari Daytona. Damn, this is cool. I cannot believe how special this experience is. I'm getting off of a horrific flight. Coming back from Moda, I had a great time, but I'm exhausted. But I'll tell you what, I've never felt more alive. This is the coolest. The brake pedal is something to get used to. You don't have as much response. It's traditional with older cars. You do have to press through the pedal to really get the most out of the brakes. They work, but you have to have confidence that just keep pushing through. And obviously I count to modern traffic in front of you. They're gonna be able to stop a lot faster than you will. So you gotta think about that when you're driving a car like this. That's no different to any other old car, though. I don't think it's a fault of this car, the Daytona. That's just how old cars are. They require you to really think about what you're doing. As we start to go through a couple little twists here, too, this car, it feels great. I can't believe it's the age that it is. Plain majestic. Oh, what a baritone motor this thing has. Let's talk about ride quality a little bit. This car rides really well. It's very comfortable. Big, thick sidewall tires just help soak up all the bumps. And of course, it's a pretty sophisticated car, you know, fully independent suspension in the late 1960s. Pretty amazing. Even cars like its contemporaries, like the Maserati Ghibli, weren't like that. They had a solid rear axle. This car just, you know, it's so comfortable. You can tell this car was meant to just cover large distances over long periods of time. It still feels like a car that you could drive across the country with relative ease. Again, hard to say that about a lot of cars from this period of time. It just feels so capable. It's way up here. But this car age really is just a number. But it is involving. The whole car is involving. I feel so lucky to drive this, but man, I'd love to own one of these someday. The vintage Ferrari experience is simply the greatest. Wow, she wakes up. She wakes up. Wow. What a triumphant sound it is. What else can I say? Visibility in this car is phenomenal. You know, it does feel low slung, which is nice, but I can see everything. The A-pillars are tiny. Just, there's so much greenhouse and glass in here. It makes it so easy. And even though this car has, you know, great, huge hood in front of you, it's pretty easy to place. I can tell where it is, way out there. People are afraid to own cars like this, and they really should not be. Yes, like with any Ferrari, they're not exactly inexpensive to take care of, but there are so many great specialists in the country to help with that. It just, there's nothing like it in the modern world that offers anywhere close to the experience that this thing does. You just drop it a cog, flip that throttle, and off you go. If that doesn't make you smile, then I don't think you really love cars. Mamma mia, bellissimo. I have to say, so many times in my life have I heard that people use the expression, don't meet your heroes. Not once has that been accurate in my experience. Is this car perfect for everybody? No. But is it absolutely what I was hoping for? Yes. When we started Cars and Bids a long time ago, I had always hoped a car like this would come to us. I cannot tell you how thrilled it makes me to have a car like this on the site. This thing, it's an honor. It really is an honor and a privilege. And that is the Ferrari Daytona. This car is so special. It's elegant, actually very fun to drive. It sounds amazing, and it is a special piece of history. Meeting one of my heroes did not disappoint. And if you've been in the market for a Ferrari Daytona, well, you can buy this one only on Cars and Bids.